and especially to today's live. I am so excited to have you back. Welcome back to a new week. I hope you are all having a good time. So, as you can see from today's video, we are in the United States today, and we are going to be talking about the US B1, B2 visa. So as usual, guys, as you come onto the live, please give the video a like and let me know where you are watching me from, because first of all, it's free. Secondly, it motivates me, and number three, it helps with the algorithms. When the algorithms say that there's a video that is live and a lot of people are interacting with it, they bump it up and show it to more people. So today I will be talking about the US B1, B2 visa. This is visit/business visa. So if you want to travel to the US for visit, or you want to travel to do some little business, or you want to go for a conference or stuff like that, this is the visa that you apply for. And specifically today, I will be looking at it from the perspective of somebody who is below the age of 18. So this could be you as an 18-year-old or less than 18-year-old applying, or you are having your child, your brother, your sister doing the visa interview. So for starters, first of all, of course, you're gonna have to fill your DS-160 form. So this is the application form you fill for US B1, B2 visa. And of course, they're going to ask you to sign for it, and they will ask you if somebody else is filling this form for you. Of course, you're going to say your parent is filling it for you, or your guardian, or whoever it is, and they're going to have to give a signature. And once they have that done, so once you have submitted your DS-160 online, you're going to have to book what do they call it, an interview appointment. Again, I know like in Kenya you do it online. I don't know about other countries, but I think it's the same. You book it online, you have to pay, and then you get your visa appointment. So for starters, when you go for the visa interview, if the child is below the age of 18, for the visa interview, they must be accompanied by both parents who are, or guardians. So if the child parents are alive and they feature in the child's birth certificate and the parents are still together, they both have to appear at the embassy. If for whatever reason the parents are separated and one of the parents is the one who has sole custody of this child, then they have to produce a document. So remember, when it comes to this US, these Western countries, if it's not on paper, it didn't happen. So even if you and your husband have been fighting for the last 50 years and you're not together, but you have not gone legally to either divorce and seek sole custody of this child, you cannot go to the embassy by yourself. It doesn't matter what your living situation is. It doesn't matter if this mother is deadbeat. It doesn't matter if this father is deadbeat. If you don't have a legal document showing that I, Eva, am the legal custodian of this child, they won't even let you into the embassy. So if you do not have that legal document to show that you are the sole custodian, both of you must feature at the embassy, as long as both of your names are in the birth certificate. If only one person's name is in the birth certificate, then only that one person goes to the embassy, because maybe I was sleeping with 10 men. I don't know which one is the father, so I didn't want to accuse anyone falsely, so I didn't put the father's name on the birth certificate of my child. But as long as the child's birth certificate has two names appearing on them, both of you have to show up. If one reason this child cannot show up, then you have to have a legal document as to why this other parent can't show up. So maybe if it's a deadbeat dad, you deliver this child, you don't know where the father went, for example. So you'll have to do like, I don't know what they call it, but in Kenya, like you have to submit like a document to the newspaper and say, I'm looking for Mr. So-and-so. I've never seen him. Then you'll, in case they ask you at the embassy and you say, I don't know where he went, you can say, actually, we have tried to look for him and we don't know where he is. But if this person is alive, then both of you have to show up at the embassy to give, and the reason you show up at the embassy is to give consent for your child to travel. So that is step number one. So before you think of going to the embassy, make sure both parents whose names are on the birth certificate can attend that interview. if let's say the child is adopted, then there has to be a legal document that shows that X or Y adopted this child. Okay. And then number 2, when this minor is preparing for the US B1, B2 visa, remember the B1, B2 visa is visit visa, B1, and B2 is business. So of course a child can be going for business, so they most probably are going for a visit. So there are 2 categories of the possibility. So this child could either be traveling themselves, so maybe let's say their school has like a competition, or maybe there's like a conference, or they have like a school activity, so the child will be traveling without the parents. Or maybe the other possibility is that this minor will be traveling with the parents or the guardian. So those are the 2 main categories, and I'll address them separately. And let me start with the one where the child is traveling with the family. So usually the main reason a child will be traveling with the family to the US is for vacation. That's number 1. Or they'll be going to visit their relatives, or maybe their parents' friends, or something like that. So if it's, let's say, for a vacation, I will tell you for free, you better have money, because there's no way you're gonna go to the embassy and say you're traveling, let's say, with your parents just to go for vacation to the US and you don't have money. How are you going to even buy your flights to go there? How are you gonna maintain yourself? How are you gonna move around? So you need to at least have some money, like good money, to show for that. And then, of course, in that interview process, if the minor will be traveling together with, let's say, the parents or one of the parents for the US trip, then even the nature of questions will be different, and a lot of those questions might be directed to the parent. They might ask a few to this child, but majority of those will be asked to the parent. So generally, how you need to prepare for this kind of an interview where the entire family is traveling together, or this minor child is traveling with the parent, is to make sure that at least whatever activities you claim to be going to do in the US are children friendly. So I'll give you an example. Recently I was at the embassy and I had somebody was asked, so she's a single parent and she was planning to travel with her, I think it was a 7 or 8-year-old child, and they asked them where they were going. They didn't filled the DS-160, and they said they were going to be traveling to Florida. It was specifically Orlando, Florida. And then when they asked the lady, so what are you going to do in Orlando, Florida? And she said, shopping. Obviously, what a damn lie. So first of all, she's a single parent. She's traveling with a 7-year-old. She's going to Orlando, and what she's going to do is shopping. Seriously, guys. With a 7-year-old in Florida, you're most probably going to Disneyland, for example. So whatever it is you claim you want to go and be doing, the US is not like in Kenya, for example, where I can decide to leave my child in the house and go and malinga wherever I want to go. In the US, you cannot leave a child unaccompanied, So that's basically if you as a parent or as a guardian will be traveling with the child, yeah? So pretty much most of the questions your dad will answer, but just know that whatever you plan to do on this vacation, there has to be child-friendly activities you're going to be doing. And if, for example, let's say you say you're going to visit your sister, your brother, your friends, your relatives, it is impractical in America for me to go and stay at, I don't know, my sister's house or my brother's house like for a whole month, and my brother or my sister drops all their things for 1 month to attend to me. It doesn't happen in America. Nobody has that luxury. Unless you find somebody who's super, super, duper, duper rich, they'll drop down everything for a whole month to, take me around. So that's not even practical. In Kenya, I know it can happen. People actually take leaves like for a whole month just to take care of their relatives who came from America. But in America, it doesn't happen like that. Like, I leave Kenya, somewhere to go and take care of me in America for a whole month, you're lying. So don't even try telling the consular that you're going to the US for a whole month with your kids and you're going to stay, I don't know, in your sister's house or your brother's house for a whole month, and they've taken leave to be taking you around. That is not true. It's not even practical. So don't even try pulling that lie. It's not even practical. So that means when you're planning to travel, let's say for vacation with your family, with your minor child, it has to be for a practical period. So you can't say, for example, that we are going to be in America for 2 months on vacation. How now? Unless maybe it's like maybe Christmas holidays, Let's say, I know in Kenya, for example, schools close around November. So maybe you can say, okay, we're going to be there for Christmas. We'll go there for the whole month of December and we'll be staying at my sister's house, for example. That would make sense. But you can't leave Kenya like in March and go with a 9-year-old in America for 2 months. No, it's not practical, because in March schools are in session, and for 2 months you're probably having a job. So you need to make sure whatever answers you're giving, it shows that you are able to manage. So the question is, if you're gonna stay for extended periods with this minor child, the question is, are you able to manage being away from your home country, from your job, from your school, from your social commitments, your financial commitments? And then if you are able to do that, being away for such extended periods of time, then you're a perfect candidate for someone who's like to misuse their visa and overstay or even refuse to come back. Now let's look at the other category of minor, the under 18 who is applying for a US B1, B2 visa. This is somebody who's traveling to the US alone. So for example, your child is going for a conference, they are maybe going for the World Scholars Cup, or they're going for a symposium or something like that. So you're not going to be part of that trip. So maybe they're going as a school, or he's going himself to present the school or herself to present that school. So that's the other category. So here, the first thing you want to make sure you do is, again, you'll have to accompany your child to the embassy, whether you are, even if they're not traveling with you. So if both parents' names appear on the birth certificate, both of you have to show up. If there's a deadbeat among you, you have to have a physical legal document showing that the other one is deadbeat, so therefore I am the sole custodian of this child. If it's not on paper, it has not happened. I keep saying it. For these Western countries, if it's not on paper, it did not happen. We don't care. If it's not on paper, it didn't happen. So for starters, one thing you have to realize, as adults, we can lie and it appears like the truth. Children have such a level of innocence that they cannot lie. So forget about drilling your child like the night before to go and lie about ABCD. So if you want, because if your child is traveling by themselves, let the child be a child. And another thing you have to notice is that, as much as letting the child be a child, so let's say if I'm talking about a 16-year-old, of course, the level of maturity of a 16-year-old at the visa counter is different from the level of maturity of, let's say, a 13-year-old or a 12-year-old. So the first thing you want to do is to understand is that it's your child who is traveling and not you. So please, even when you go to the visa counter, they're very tiny, like you can barely stand too many of you. Let your child be the one at the counter, because they are the one who are traveling. And I don't know about other countries, but I know in Kenya, there are people who are 30-year-olds and their parents still pay the bills for them. It's very normal. Like here, you pay your child's bills until the day they get a job. When they're going to uni, they don't even bother because they know mom is going to pay. So you'll find children as old as 25 still under the custody of, in fact, at 25 is not even a child, but you'll find adults as old as 25, just because they're still in uni, they're still under the custody of their parents. In the US, a 16-year-old can join the army. So you have to put yourself in the shoes of the person interviewing you. Remember, the person interviewing you is an American citizen. They have lived in America, so they understand, they are more conversant with the societal setting in America. So for you, you're here with your child, you are with your child and you still feel like, oh, my child, he's only 15, she's only 16. You feel like they're a child, she's only 17. But in the mind of the American, this is an adult. They could literally join the army and go to the battle line in Afghanistan if they wanted to. So that's one thing you have to understand. So your child might look like a child to you because they're Kenyan, but the moment they're at the counter, the US Embassy, let's say they're 16, they're 17, they're literally seeing somebody who can hold a gun. So give your child space to thrive at the interview. Don't feel like you want to be the one answering the questions for your child. They're asked this, you feel like you're the one who wants to talk. No. Don't talk unless you're asked a question. Let your child be the one to talk. And then in terms of talking, let your child be calm. Don't stress them like maybe the night before or the week before. You said, oh, if they ask you this, you have to say this. No, 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 no. The child is traveling. They should know where they're going. If let's say it's for a competition, if it's for a conference, if it's like the SD, a Pathfinder Camporee, if your child genuinely has been attending the Pathfinder classes, they should be knowing what Pathfinder is all about. They should be knowing all the laws of the club. They should be knowing who their teacher is. They should be knowing who's the president of the Seventh-day Adventist Church. They should be knowing what's the current quarterly lesson. If your child is participating in the World Scholars Cup, for example, they should know what is the theme for 2023. They should know where is the event taking place. They should know what is this event all about. They should know why even the event, you know? So if your child is genuinely going to America because of this particular reason, then they should have enough truth for their age. So for example, if let's say I had to explain what is World Scholars Cup, for example, from my perspective, I'm a 40-something-year-old vis-a-vis my son who is 15. Of course, I'm going to give a more elaborate response than maybe my son, but the consular officer who is interviewing my son is not looking for a 40-something kind of explanation. He's looking for a 15-year-old type of explanation. So by the time you start like coaching your child and trying to make them so uncomfortable and trying to tell them you have to say this and have to say that, that's not where their headspace is. He's 15, she's 17, for crying out loud. Don't try to get out a 40-something brain from a 17-year-old or from an 18, and it's gonna show. Because if you over prepare this child, when they go to the embassy, they're gonna look like a robot. So I'm just gonna quickly go through some of the basic questions that your minor should know from the perspective of a minor. So don't expect your child to explain things like a 44-year-old woman would from their perspective as a minor. So for example, of course, let your child be calm. Don't put so much pressure on them. It's not the end of the world if their visa is not approved. But if they follow these steps, I can be sure the chances of their visas getting approved are very high. If your child is genuinely going to attend this event and they really have been preparing back home and they have every reason to show that they're coming back, the chances of being denied a visa are very slim. So your child just needs to be calm, and children generally don't panic because they don't have so much exposure of the risk that is at hand unless we pump it into their head. You know, for a child not getting their visa approved is not such a big deal because they really, unless you've been pumping it in their head, oh, you have to get this visa approved, otherwise, or don't put too much pressure on the child. It's not the end of the world. I mean, it's a 17-year-old, it's a 16. They still have the rest of their lives to go back to the embassy and get that visa if they're not denied. Number two, let your child be rational. For example, if my child has not been attending the Pathfinder meetings, which happen every single week, why suddenly does my child want to go to America? Unless they just want to take advantage of the situation. Because if they have genuinely been attending the classes and they actually enjoy the Pathfinder Club, then they should know what Pathfinder is all about, because literally those classes happen every single day. If my child is attending, I don't know which event where, and they've actually been attending that training in school, they shouldn't have a problem explaining themselves to the consular, yeah? Tell the truth. Let your child tell the truth. Because, listen, as I said, children are born very innocent. They don't know how to lie. So the moment you try to force a lie from a child, it's going to be so obvious and it's going to be so confusing for them when they're in front of the visa officer. And we are human. We know when our children lie to us, yeah? Anytime like my son lies to me, I know he's lying. Sometimes I'll pretend like he has convinced me with his lie, but deep down I know he lied. And sometimes I will subconsciously make a face that makes, like, I know you're lying. And it's very possible. Can you imagine how traumatizing it is for a child? You made them lie, and then they go to the counter and they're asked something and it's so obvious they lied, and for some reason the consular behaves in a manner, maybe subconsciously, that tells the child that they lied and I know you lied. It puts the child in a very embarrassing situation that their little brain cannot even wrap their head around, and it just traumatizes the child. So let the child be calm, let them be rational, let them say the truth. And then some of the things your child must be able to know before they even go to the embassy. So number one, why do they want to visit the US? This is like the most commonly asked question ever, whether you're an adult, whether you're a minor. That's like standard question they will ask you. You arrive on that window, why do you want to go to America? So your child should be able to answer this question in a very coherent way, in a very sensible way, in a manner that is rational, I've said, in a manner that is convincing, in a manner that is articulate. Yeah. So, and all these are possible again if the environment in which the child even lives in allows this thing to happen, because your child is not going to be coherent and sensible and articulate and rational and convincing overnight. So we have to create environments that this kind of character comes out on its own in your child. So even before you start thinking of going to the embassy, create this environment in your home so that your child, teach your child. For example, if I ask my child, where are you going? And they said, Mom, it's too hot. I'm like, no, I asked you, where are you going? I didn't ask you what the weather is. So start training your child from even in normal life to know that when you're asked a question, you need to understand it and answer it appropriately. If I asked my child, are you going to have ice cream or pizza? And they respond, like what? What do they respond? Yes. I'll be like, no. An or question cannot be answered with a yes. So you're already training your child to know that questions have to be answered in a certain way. Yeah. Be articulate. And then the other question your child should be able to answer. So this again is very possible. Like I already mentioned, if let's say your child said they are going for a debate competition, have they been practicing? Do they look like a debater? So for example, your child can't be the one who's being asked a question and they're drawing flowers and maps on the floor and they expect to participate in an international debate in America. How rational is that even? They can barely express themselves here in Kenya. How are they going to stand on an international stage in front of the whole world on a global platform and debate? Yeah? So be rational. Start training your child from when they're home. So the other question your child should be able to answer is, why now? Why do I want to travel in May? Why do I want to travel in November? Why do I want to travel in September? So most probably it's because this is when the event is going to be happening, or maybe this is when our school will be closed and they have said that we can do this. And then the other question is, what are you going to do there? So your child must know what they are going to do there. So I gave you the example of this single lady. She had like a 7-year-old and she had said they're gonna, so now in your DS6 you already entered and said, where are you going? So she had said she's going to Orlando, Florida. And they asked her, what are you guys going to do? And she said, shopping. 7-year-old, do they even care about shopping in Nairobi? And you're gonna go with a 7-year-old to Orlando, Florida to shop? You're clearly lying. It means you haven't done your homework. There's Disneyland in Orlando, Florida. So you could probably find something there, or take them to Universal Studios in Los Angeles, you know. So do your homework. No, US has, is it 51 states? Go and study what is available where, and what are the activities that a 9-year-old, a 7-year-old, a 17-year-old can do in this area. And then they will ask you, where will you go? So that's usually the next question they would ask you. So what do you want to go and do in America? Where will you go? So you cannot say, for example, I am going for this exchange program, and you didn't even find out which state is this happening. And don't just, so if let's say it's happening at the University of Pennsylvania, you better know where this university is. You better know how you get there. So go to the internet. Let your child research, yeah? Let them know, if I want to go to the University of Pennsylvania from Nairobi JKIA, or from Ghana Kotako, or from Cape Town or Johannesburg Airport, what are the most reasonable flights? So for example, you will say, I'll fly into New York and then take a bus, or they will come and pick us. So let your child know to the last detail. And this is why it's very important, your DS-160, don't fill it for your child. Let your child fill in that form. You can sit there with them, but let them fill in that form. Because by filling in that form, it makes the child be able to answer questions, because part of the form, they will ask the child, where are you going to go, which date? So it forces the child to know, when am I traveling? When am I coming back? Those are questions that are asked in the DS-160 form. Where am I going? Where am I going to stay? They ask to you for your address. Let your child be able to know that. So if it's a school trip, for example, of course, the school is going to tell them, we'll be staying. And if they're not told, let your child go to the internet and Google, I'm going to Penn State University. Which are the hotels that are near there, affordable hotels that are walking distance to the university? So let the child do all that. If I go, what's the easiest way to get to Penn State? Let your child do that homework. So by filling in the DS-160 form themselves, of course, with your guidance, you could be sitting next to them, but let them take the ownership of that form. And I even keep talking about it here on the channel. Should you, for example, decide to even apply for your Canadian Express entry, don't just let some random cyber assistant fill in that information for you. Even green card, I talk about it. Don't just let people fill your green card application for you. You have to know what is on that form. You're just not going to outsource your life to somebody else, yeah? Remember we have said your 17-year-old will look like a baby to you. In America, they're already in the army. So remember, as you hear babying your child at 17, this country you want your child to go to, they're already in the army at that age. They are independent. So don't baby your kids too much. Let them own this process. So even but if the child has filled in that form, because remember, in the US Embassy, and that's the advantage of I think it's the only embassy now that lets you go and present your case, like UK, Canada, all the other, probably the Schengen. But all these other embassies, you submit your documents and wait. But you're fortunate with the US Embassy, you actually go and explain your case. So take advantage of this opportunity. And it's usually a very short time, between 5 to 6 minutes at most. Be articulate, yeah? So by your child filling in this form for themselves, the DS-160 application, it forces them to think through that form. And whatever questions they have, they get those answered. What they don't have answers for, they're able to Google, so that by the time they get to the embassy, they're able to answer that question. The other question they can ask you is, where will you go? So maybe this event, this symposium, this debate, this camporee is 10 days, but maybe I'm going to spend 3 more days because my aunt will come in, I don't know, whatever, or the school has organized a tour of New York for us. So we'll go to this place and then we'll tour New York for 2 days and then come back. The other question is, who will pay for it? So if your child filled in that DS-160 form, there's actually a question they ask, who is paying for the trip? So your child filled in that form, and of course, if they have rich parents, some kids are so rich, they have their own savings in Jumbo Junior accounts. So if your child has savings, they can say, I'm paying for it from my savings. But if you're the one who's sponsoring your child, and they're filling that form, of course, they'll ask you, mom, who's paying for this trip, or dad, who's paying for this trip. They can say, man. And you'll say, oh, we are paying for it. So the child will select or write, my parents. So they know. And then there's the other question, again, they're likely to be asked is, where will you stay? And this is a question that is asked on the DS-160 form. So when the child is filling this form, you can tell them, okay, you're going to Penn State. That's where the event is happening. You're going to be in Wyoming, for example. So maybe the camporee is happening. We're going to be camping on the grounds. Tell your child, please check, here is the site. And one advantage with most of these events that are happening in the US, they always have their websites and all the information is up 3-4 years in advance. They are not ineffective like some of our countries. So encourage your child to go to the internet, go to the website where that conference is taking place, that symposium, that camporee, whatever that is. Let them read up. They usually give, like, if there's a conference, even in the US, Canada, Britain, wherever, they always even have suggested hotels. So let your child pick whichever they think works for them in terms of cost, distance to the event location, and then, of course, the last thing, where will you stay? Let your child know that, because they filled in that form, they know. And once, I would advise you, once you have filled in your DS-160 form, please print it before you make payment. Because the moment you make payment and book a date, you will no longer be able to download or after 30 days, you're no longer able to download the entire DS-160 form. So as soon as you have done your DS-160 form, you are happy with it, you have submitted, please download it, because you're going to be asked questions based on what you entered on the DS-160. Then your child has to know what evidence does, the visa officer have that this child will come back home. So the child can talk about, I'm still in school, or I don't know, whatever reason. Yeah. So let your child know why they're likely to come back. So for example, I'm leaving my parents here. Who will I stay with in America? I have no one to stay with in America. I have to come back. My whole family is here. My friends are here, so I have to come back. And something else I wanted to mention. So let's say if you are applying for your B1, B2 visa as a minor, and it's like during school session, you're going for a school event, please put on your uniform, because they might ask you. So in fact, they don't even ask you that. Once you say that you're a student, they'll ask you which school. So if, let's say, I've said I'm a student of Maxwell Adventist Preparatory, and I show up that day of the interview as my 16-year-old, and I have my blazer with Maxwell Adventist Preparatory logo, then they don't even have to ask me again, which school are you from? So they can see it there. It just helps to, confirm what you put in your DS-160. Something else, basic things like your age. You cannot believe that children don't know how old they are, or they're not sure, or I don't know, they lied. So let your child know both when they were born as well as what their age is. Yeah. And then something else, let's say if your child said, so of course they're going to ask you, do you have any relatives in America? You will say yes in the DS-160 form. And relatives here, they talk about maybe a brother, sister, father, mother. So of course your child will be filling in this form, and they know mom's sister, dad's brother is in America, and they're entering this information. It is important in the event that your child says they're going to visit this aunt, this brother, this sister, they have to have information, or at least you have to have information of how this relative went to America. What are they currently doing with themselves? Are they permanent residents? Do they go on green card? Are they students? Did they just disappear in America? And you're allowed not to know, but how can you say you don't know when you said this minor is going to stay with this relative? So if they're going to stay with this relative, you better have all the information about this relative. Yeah. What do they do? What do they study? How are they in America? Are they permanent residents? Are they all that? So you have to have all this information. And then I've already talked about too much preparation. You don't need, it's a child, for crying out loud. They're less than 17. They don't need too much. Like, don't sit there trying to hash what the child is going to say now. And that's what I'm saying. Just allowing your child to feel that DS-160 form is enough practice, because the child is answering the questions they're going to be asked. And remember, the way the consulars ask, questions are asked based on what you answer. So for example, if you say, I'm going to the US, what brings me to the US? I'm going to attend the Global Scholars Cup. They're going to ask you, what is that? So you better have done your homework. So whatever it is that is taking you to the US, do your homework, thorough homework, like know it like the back of your hand, like they say, like your nose. Let your child have all this information. And if you're the one who's watching with the minor, know it like to the last T. When did this event begin? If it's like a competition, who's in charge? What dates exactly? Which state? Where? Which building? Which location? Which hotel? Have all that information, yeah? And overall, when you are attending this B1, B2 visa, whether you're a minor, whether you're an adult, what the consular is basically trying to find out is, either she's 17, she's 16, she's 13, she's 40, wants a B1, B2 visa. Are they gonna come back once their visa has expired? That's the basic underlying question. So everything else you're being asked, this is what the consular is trying to prove. So whatever you answer, just try to highlight how temporal your visit is, your ties to your homeland, your family, your school, your friends, all that, yeah? Of course, you're a minor, so you probably don't have too much money, but just your friends. Those people, they understand how Friends are very important to kids. They love their friends. They're not like us who are so fake, because kids are so genuine, you know. So when they love their friends, they really love them. And when they say they miss them, they actually miss them. So even when they get uprooted from their home country, they miss their friends. When you uproot them from a school, they literally miss their friends, and even affects their psychology. So when a child tells the counselor they will actually miss their friends, they mean it. So let the child be a child. And don't coach them too much. Don't make it look so fake. Just let the child be truthful. And then I've already talked about the DS-160 visa. Let the child feel it as truthfully as possible, so they don't have to worry about faking information. If your child doesn't have an answer to any question, it's okay not to know. Just say, I don't know, I'm not sure. If your parent is there, you can ask them. So for example, if they asked, I don't know, something like, I don't know, like what would they ask that your parent on his own would know? So for example, if they ask, what did your mom's brother study? You may not have that information, or maybe you have forgotten, yeah? So it's okay for the child to say they don't know, and maybe look back and ask their parent. But you as the parent, you don't answer until they ask you, yeah? It's not your interview, it's your child's interview. And then in case the child has traveled previously, have that information. The child must know if they traveled before to the US, when was that? How many times have they traveled to the US? And know the date, the month, how long did they stay for, yeah? And they also should know how long are they planning to stay for this particular trip. And something else I've said, who's paying for the trip? Only answer questions as a parent if they ask you. Remember, the only reason you're in that embassy is not to talk for your child, unless of course it's a trip where maybe you're traveling as a family, it's a vacation or something. But if the child is traveling by themselves, the only reason you're in that embassy is for consent. That's the only reason they want you there, for consent, because this is a minor. So they want to be sure that both parents have agreed for this child to travel, and none of you is trying to steal this child out of the country. No one of you is trying to traffic this child. They want to be sure that indeed these are the parents of this child, and she's not being, or he's not being trafficked out of the country. So that's the, like 99% of your role in that embassy is to prove that you are the legit parent of this child, or the legit guardian, and you're not trying to sneak this child out of the country from your spouse or as a child trafficker. And of course, let your child know what brings them there, and of course, say the truth. So that's the main thing I would say there. Say the truth. Let your child be a child. Don't harass them. Don't make it, and to be honest, it's not that serious. So don't give your child too much pressure, and then they'll just be there panicking. They can't even think. They're just like, oh my God, what if I don't get this visa? Oh, their life won't end. Trust me, they still have a whole future ahead of them. So let them be kids. So guys, that's what I wanted to share with you about the B1, B2 visa, how to prepare for the interview as a minor. And I will quickly read your questions because I have, and I hope they're all about the visa, guys. Brian is saying, greetings to you, Brian. Adil from India, hello. We have John saying, thanks a lot for your messages. You are welcome. How is Uganda? KK Coins from Ethiopia, hello. Margaret Chua is saying hi from Zambia. I see you. Nikki Praise, glad to finally catch me live. Thank you so much for coming in. He's asking for my email address is ivamtali@gmail.com. I will, if you check the description box at the bottom of this live, you will see, but I'm also gonna type it once I finish reading this. Ramso is saying hello. Naongea vizuri like ila nikifuatwa inbox haujibu. Ramso is saying that I speak so well, but when I am following the inbox, I don't speak. I don't think that is true. So let me explain myself. To be honest, I get so many emails on my inbox, and this is the order in which I used to respond. If you ask me a question that is straightforward, I don't need to do any research. You can be sure I will open your email and respond immediately. So that one you can be sure. If you're asking me a question that requires me to think, so for example, somebody tells me we are a family of 3, my husband has done a degree in e-commerce, my wife is a nurse, my brother is that, what is the easiest visa to come to Canada? I will not answer because I wouldn't know. Canada has more than 100 immigration pathways. If you send me a document and you say, hey Eva, this is my CV attached, please check for me. Again, I don't answer that because I already said I do not open attachments because that is how us YouTubers get hacked. I do not check people's CVs because I already shared videos here on how to do a Canadian style CV. There are samples in my website, evamtali.com. I have people who say, oh, Eva, I watched this video. Can you share with me the link? While I actually share the link on the video, I don't respond. Or people who come to me and say, hi, Eva, I have been following all your videos. Can you help me get a job in Canada? Clearly, it means you don't follow my videos, because those who follow my videos and watch them to the end know very well every time I have an opportunity, I share it here on the channel. Or maybe you ask me, hey, Eva, can you get for me an agency in Canada? It means you don't even know what this channel is all about, because if you check on this channel at the top, there's a place written about. It shows you what this channel is all about. So if you're asking me to get you an agent and you claim to watch my videos and been following me for a long time, it means you're lying. Because you've been following me for a long time and you watch my videos, you know my position with agents. Yeah. So I don't know which of these applies to you, Ramson. But and again, those who know, if you ask me questions here on the chat box or in the comments, you know I am very quick to answer them. I am always answering them immediately, because one reason why I prioritize questions asked in public, it helps more than one person. When you ask me questions in private, it's only helping you. So, but sometimes also when I get at the same question from different people, I do a video. So for example, this particular video I'm doing now is because I've been getting so many questions around it. So I decided to answer it in the form of a video. So Ramso, I'm not sure which of those situations apply to you, but I'm sure if I haven't answered, unless you sent your email maybe 3-4 days ago, I've been trying very much to catch up. I don't know which of those, let me know which one of those applies to your case, because I think I would not be able to just refuse to respond, yeah? So guys, I'm David from Nairobi, Kenya. Hi, how are you? So Ramso, if you're still here, I know you probably fall in one of those categories, but I will check again. I don't know if this is the same name you are using, but guys, thank you so much for staying with me on this live. I don't see any other questions and comments. I will definitely see you on the next one, and I wish you all the best in your B1, B2 visa application. I hope I answered everybody. Let me just check one more time. Yes. So bye guys, have a good night or good morning depending on where you are, or good evening.